I'm actually not a mushroom identification expert, if you couldn't tell just by looking at me, but I have eaten edible mushrooms. I have found them right here on the farm, and I do have methods for identifying mushrooms. Usually that starts with a search on Google Lens, helps you narrow it down, start you off in the right direction. Asking Facebook mushroom foraging groups. There's experts on there who, with pictures of the top, the bottom, and the stipe and the substrate, what it's growing on, they'll be able to identify most mushrooms looking at those pictures. Also, just there's lots of resources online, and you can search mushrooms and find out which edible ones have potential toxic lookalikes. Using all of that, and if you just start by eating a little bit at a time, usually you can get comfortable enough to know what you have, know what you're working with. Today we're going to look at some of my favorite choice edible mushrooms, the oyster mushroom, and more specifically the golden oyster mushroom. So why don't you come ahead and follow me, we'll go take a look. I've actually walked past this dead ash tree stump a few times, just wondering if mushrooms actually would grow on that, being still stuck in the ground so it soaks up some moisture. Dead hardwood stumps are a good place to check for mushrooms. And today when I was walking past, lo and behold, I noticed this little yellow color on the top of the stump, and turns out we have some golden oysters. Take a closer look. Usually a mesh bag is your best option, but I'm so close to the house that paper bag will work just fine in this situation. A mesh bag will actually let the spores kind of continue to spread as you carry them around, lets the mushrooms breathe so they don't get too wet and rotted, and also doesn't have them get too crushed. So golden oysters will grow in clusters. They do have stipes or stems, and they have gills, which are these blade-like things underneath, and their gills are decurrent, which means that they can run down the stem a little bit as well. They also grow on dead hardwood typically as a way to help identify them. And the smell, people say they smell like black licorice, and if you smell one you'll see what they mean. I don't believe there's any deadly lookalikes for golden oysters, but like I said, I'm not a mushroom expert, don't take my word for it. The only lookalikes that I know of is actually a mushroom called mock oyster. Used to be the same genus as oysters, but recently they moved it to a different genus, and those actually are edible, just don't taste as good as the real thing, the golden oysters like these. There's a few different species of oysters. There's pearl oysters, golden oysters, a few others, don't know off the top of my head, but you can check those out. But if you have a cluster of mushrooms looking like this with the current gills growing on some dead hardwood, chances are you might have some oyster mushrooms. So that's some nice sized oysters, a nice sized cluster. These are just a hair on the old side. You can see some of those other ones back there are really old that I might leave behind. You can tell if they start to rot, there's just a little bit of yellowing juiciness that goes on there. I myself, I just kind of trim that out and remove it, but I still may keep some of these and eat the rest of them. Really, I'm just kind of looking for bugs and wormholes inside that might have laid their maggot larvae. If I don't find that and they're not completely rotted or not too dried out, I'll probably eat them. If they're not prime, there's other ways you can use them. You can dehydrate them, powder them, use them as soup stock. I myself, I'll probably just clean these up and eat them. You can be as picky as you want. Might as well grab them before the bugs do. So we got a couple smaller ones here, and you might think, let's let that one grow and get a little bigger like the rest of them I just picked. However, look at some of these old dry ones. They really never got any bigger than that anyways, so I don't know if these will get any bigger. I'm just gonna take them before the bugs get to them anyways. It's a good idea to have a nice knife for cutting the stalks or cutting the stems of the mushrooms. Helps you keep the dirt off, makes cleanup a little easier once you're back to the house. Just got back here to the kitchen where I'm cleaning out the sink with some hot soapy water. We're going to give the golden oysters a little saltwater soak. The salt water is going to convince any little critters hiding in there to frig off. Then we're going to sort through the mushrooms and put any rotted or dried spots into the compost bin. And then anything that looks good is going to go either straight to the dehydrator, since I have so many of them. That'll help me keep them stored. Otherwise, I'll keep a little bit to go straight into a hot, buttery frying pan. Cook them up. They will be delicious.